what you think, what you telling your friends when you're talking about me. It's cool, you can say what you want to. I don't give a fuck what you think.
The Siren of Darkwater Lake. Darkwater Lake had always been known for its eerie stillness. Hidden deep in the forest, locals avoided the lake after dusk, whispering about the strange happenings that plagued anyone who ventured too close. There was a legend, one that had been passed down for generations, of a beautiful woman with long flowing hair, who lured unsuspecting travelers into the cold, murky depths. Her voice, so enchanting, could make even the most hardened man drop everything and follow her song into the water. It was said that the siren was once a woman who drowned in the lake, betrayed by a lover who never returned. Consumed by grief and rage, she became a vengeful spirit. One evening, a young man named Thomas decided to test the legend. As he approached the lake's edge, a soft voice echoed from the depths. The closer he got, the clearer the melody became, but something was wrong. The melody wasn't sweet, it was distorted, laced with agony. When he reached the shore, he saw her pale form rising from the water, eyes hollow with sorrow. But it was too late. Her haunting song had already entangled him. The last thing Thomas heard before the water claimed him was the sound of his own screams, carried away by the wind. To this day, the people say if you listen carefully, you can hear the faint strains of her song, and her laughter, carried across the lake. The Mermaid of Blackstone Cove. Blackstone Cove was a quiet fishing village by the sea. The fishermen would go out every morning, returning in the evening with their catch. But for the last few weeks, there had been whispers of strange occurrences out by the cove. Some claimed to have seen a figure swimming in the water at night, her long hair shimmering in the moonlight. Others reported hearing a beautiful voice singing across the waves, enticing them to come closer. One fateful night, as the tide came in, a young fisherman named Elias heard the song. He had always been skeptical of such things, but that night, the melody seemed to pull at his very soul. Unable to resist, he grabbed his boat and rowed out toward the sound. As he drew closer, the water around him became unnaturally calm, the air thick with an unexplainable silence. There, in the distance, he saw her, the mermaid, her long green tail flicking gracefully in the water. She sang to him, her eyes glowing with a light that seemed unnatural. Without thinking, Elias reached out to touch her, but the moment his hand brushed her skin, the world seemed to collapse. The mermaid's face twisted into a grotesque mask of fury, and her song became a shriek. She dragged him under, his screams lost to the depths. The villagers searched for him, but his body was never found. Now, whenever the sea is calm and the moon is full, you can hear the mermaid's song, and the faint, gurgling cries of those who dared approach her. The Lake of Lost Souls. On a remote island off the coast of Scotland, there lies a lake so dark, it is said to reflect nothing but despair. Locals call it the Lake of Lost Souls, for it is believed that anyone who dies near its shores becomes trapped within its murky waters. In the 18th century, a young girl named Isla was sailing with her family when a terrible storm hit. The boat capsized, and Isla was the only one to survive. She washed ashore near the lake, exhausted and disoriented, but her eyes, they were different. They were empty, as though her soul had already left her body. Isla wandered the island for days, speaking of voices calling to her from the water. When she finally approached the lake, she saw them, pale, spectral figures beneath the surface, reaching up for her. The next morning, the villagers found her on the shore, staring at the water with lifeless eyes. They tried to take her away, but she resisted, her voice now a hollow echo of the lake's call. It was then they realized Isla had become a part of the lake, one of its lost souls. Years passed, and still, the villagers hear whispers on the wind, calls for help that seem to come from the very heart of the lake. If you are ever near the shore and you hear the soft singing of a child, be careful. It may not be the wind you hear, but the lure of the lake, waiting for another soul to join its endless depths. The Siren of Gull's Rock. Gull's Rock is a jagged outcrop off the coast of Norway, known for its treacherous cliffs and turbulent waters. Sailors who passed through the area spoke of a haunting figure seen standing on the rock, her long hair waving in the wind. They called her the Siren of Gull's Rock, and it was said that her beauty and song were so enchanting that no sailor could resist. But those who got too close, they never returned. One stormy evening, a ship named the Black Star sailed too close to Gull's Rock. A young first mate, Edward, saw her standing on the cliffs, her voice calling to him like a lullaby. Mesmerized, he ordered the crew to steer the ship toward the rock. As they neared, the waves grew fierce, and the storm intensified. The siren's song grew louder, and her figure became more defined, now shimmering in the mist. Before anyone could react, the ship was caught in a violent whirlpool, dragged toward the jagged rocks. The crew screamed as the ship was torn apart. Edward, the last to be seen, was reaching out to the siren, his hands trembling as the waves swallowed him whole. To this day, the area is avoided by sailors, but at night, on stormy evenings, you might hear the soft, melancholic song of the siren, calling you into the depths. The Song of the Water Maiden. In a small, secluded village in Japan, there was a legend of a water maiden who lived in a secluded pond deep in the forest. It was said that she was the spirit of a young woman who drowned in the pond years ago after being rejected by her lover. She had been beautiful, and her voice was said to be hauntingly pure. After her death, the village was plagued by mysterious disappearances. Travelers who ventured into the woods at night were never seen again. One cold autumn evening, a man named Haruki, curious about the legend, ventured into the forest. As he approached the pond, he heard a voice, a song, so sweet and hypnotic, that it seemed to pull at his heart. He followed the melody and saw her standing by the water, her long black hair flowing around her like a veil. Her eyes were filled with sadness, yet she smiled, beckoning him closer. Without thinking, Haruki stepped into the water. As he did, the temperature dropped drastically, and the water began to swirl around him. He tried to back away, but it was too late. The maiden's hands gripped his wrists, pulling him deeper into the cold depths. His last breath escaped as he was dragged under, the song continuing in his ears until everything went silent. The villagers still avoid the pond, but some claim to hear the haunting song on quiet nights. If you listen closely, you might hear it too, but be warned, the water maiden does not let anyone leave once they've heard her song.